It happened over turkey and stuffing. That was fitting, I guess. My sister, Sloane Cole, stood up and tapped her crystal wine glass with a manicured fingernail. The sharp clinking sound cut through the laughter of the dining room. She smiled like she had just won a beauty pageant. "Mom and Dad are signing the house to me," she announced, her voice ringing out clearly. She looked right at me, with a smirk. "Harper gets nothing." The room erupted. The aunts and uncles cheered. My parents, Patricia and Martin, beamed with pride. They looked relieved. They thought they had pulled it off. They thought I would just sit there and take the humiliation like I always did. They expected me to shrink away. But I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just set my silver fork down on the china plate. It made a soft, deliberate clack. I looked at my father. He refused to meet my eyes. He was staring at his mashed potatoes. I smiled. It was a cold, calm smile. "Join our family. Like, subscribe, and share your location below. I'm so excited to connect with every one of you." "Dad," I said, my voice steady in the sudden quiet. "Should I tell them or will you?" The cheering died instantly. That was the moment my family finally broke. To understand why I said those words at Thanksgiving, you have to understand the 30 years that came before them. You have to understand what it means to be a ghost in your own house. I am Harper Cole. For most of my life, I was defined by what I was not. I was not the pretty one. I was not the loud one. I was not the one who needed help. I was just Harper. I was the furniture. I was reliable, sturdy, and easy to ignore. My sister, Sloane, was the sun. She was 2 years younger than me, but she took up all the space in the room. When Sloane laughed, my parents laughed. When Sloane cried, the world stopped turning. My mother, Patricia, and my father, Martin, revolved around her. We grew up in a nice house in the suburbs. It was a big house with white pillars and a wraparound porch. It looked perfect from the street. Inside, it was a stage for Sloane. I remember when I was 12 years old. I wanted to play the piano. I begged my parents for lessons. I found a used keyboard at a garage sale for $20. I practiced on it every day. I asked my dad if I could take lessons at the community center. "Money is tight right now, Harper," Martin said. He didn't look up from his newspaper. "We have to be careful." I understood. I was a good kid. I didn't want to cause trouble. So, I stopped asking. 2 weeks later, Sloane decided she wanted to be a dancer. She didn't just want lessons. She needed the shoes, the leotards, the bags, and the expensive classes at the private studio downtown. "She has natural talent, Martin," my mother said. Her eyes were shining. "We have to support her dreams." They found the money for Sloane. They always found the money for Sloane. That was the pattern of our lives. If I needed braces, it was a financial crisis. If Sloane needed a new car because she crashed her old one, it was an emergency that had to be solved immediately. I learned a very hard lesson very young. Do not ask. Do not expect. Do it yourself. By the time I was 18, I was already working 2 jobs. I worked at a diner in the mornings and a library in the evenings. I saved every dollar. I knew that if I wanted to go to college, I would have to pay for it. My parents made it clear. "We have saved a little bit," my dad told me when I got my acceptance letter to a state university. "But with Sloane finishing high school soon, we need to keep our reserves for her. She's looking at private colleges." "You understand, right, Harper? You're the smart one. You can get scholarships." I understood. I always understood. I went to college. I took out loans in my own name. I worked full-time while studying. I ate instant noodles and skipped parties because I couldn't afford the cover charge. I built my life brick by brick. Sloane went to a private art school. My parents paid for her tuition. They paid for her apartment. They paid for her meal plan. When she dropped out after 3 semesters because it was too stressful, they threw her a welcome home party. They bought her a puppy to help with her anxiety. I graduated with honors. My parents didn't come to the ceremony. My dad had a backache, and my mom said she couldn't drive him alone. I walked across the stage, took my diploma, and looked at the empty seats in the audience. I felt a heavy stone in my chest, but I didn't cry. I was used to it. After college, I moved to Chicago. I wanted distance. I wanted to be somewhere where nobody knew that I was the other daughter. I got a job at a logistics firm. It wasn't glamorous. It was hard work. I managed supply chains. I dealt with angry truck drivers and late shipments, but I was good at it. I was organized. I was calm under pressure. I moved up quickly. In 5 years, I was a manager. I bought a condo. It was small, but it was mine. I bought my own furniture. I paid my own mortgage. Every single thing in that apartment, from the toaster to the rugs, was paid for with money I earned. My family rarely visited. It was a 2-hour drive, but they acted like it was a flight to the moon. When I visited them, I saw the difference. The house was starting to look tired. The paint was peeling. The roof needed repairs. My dad was still working, but he looked exhausted. My mom was always complaining about the cost of groceries, yet Sloane was still living there. She was 28 years old. She occupied the entire second floor. She had projects. Sometimes she was a jewelry maker. Sometimes she was a lifestyle blogger. She never made any money. Sloane is finding herself, my mother would say defensively if I asked. It's hard out there for young people, Harper. You were just lucky. Lucky. That word made my blood boil. I wasn't lucky. I was tired. I was disciplined. Sloane had a new boyfriend every few months. The latest one was Logan West. He seemed nice enough, maybe a little naive. He came from a wealthy family. My parents loved him. They loved that he took Sloane to fancy dinners. They loved that he drove a BMW. They looked at him like he was a winning lottery ticket. I watched all of this from a distance. I came home for Christmas. I came home for birthdays. I bought them nice gifts. I bought my dad a new watch. I bought my mom a spa day. I bought Sloane a leather jacket she wanted. They opened the gifts, said thanks, and moved on. They never asked about my job. They never asked if I was dating anyone. They never asked if I was happy. I was the bank. I was the backup plan. I was the invisible daughter. But I was fine with that. I had my independence. I told myself that I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their money. I was safe in Chicago. I had built a fortress around my heart. I didn't know that they were planning to breach the walls. I didn't know that being ignored was actually safer than being noticed. When you are invisible, you are safe. When they finally see you, it's usually because they want something. It was a quiet Tuesday in July when the illusion of my safety shattered. I was at my desk in Chicago, looking at a spreadsheet. My phone buzzed. It was my mother. She never called in the middle of the day. Usually, if she called, it was to complain about a neighbor or to tell me what amazing things Sloane had done. I picked up the phone. "Hello."
"Harper," she said.
Her voice was tight. It sounded breathless. "Harper, you need to come home." My stomach dropped. "What happened? Is Dad okay?" "Dad is fine. We are all fine. But we need you here. This weekend. It is very important." "Mom, I have work. I can't just leave." "What is this about?" "It's about family business," she said. She lowered her voice, as if someone was listening. "We are making some changes. Financial changes. We want to include you. We realized we haven't been fair to you." I froze. I stopped typing. "What do you mean?" I asked. "We want to secure your future," she said. The words sounded rehearsed. "We are getting older, Harper. We need to get our affairs in order. We want to make sure you and Sloane are taken care of. Please, just come home for dinner on Saturday. We have papers to sign." I felt a strange mixture of hope and suspicion. Hope is a dangerous thing. Even after 30 years of neglect, a small part of me, the little girl who wanted piano lessons, perked up. "They want to be fair," that voice whispered. "They finally see me." But the adult Harper, the logistics manager who dealt with liars and cheats every day, was suspicious. "What kind of papers?" I asked. "Just standard things. Estate planning. A refinance on the house. We want to put your name on the deed, Harper. So the house belongs to you girls one day." I blinked. My name on the deed? The house was worth a lot of money. It was their biggest asset. "Why now?" I asked. "Because we love you," she said. Her voice cracked a little. "Please, Harper, come home." "Okay," I said slowly. "I'll be there on Saturday." I hung up the phone. I stared at the gray wall of my office. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that they had finally woken up. I wanted to believe that I was finally going to be treated like a daughter, not a stranger. But deep down, I knew better. I just didn't know how bad it was going to be. I drove home on Saturday morning. The drive from Chicago to the suburbs usually took 2 hours, but there was traffic. It gave me time to think. The more I thought about my mother's phone call, the more uneasy I felt. My parents were not the type of people who planned ahead. They lived in the moment. If they had money, they spent it. If they didn't, They ignored the bills until the red envelopes arrived. The idea that they were doing estate planning felt wrong. It didn't fit their character. I pulled into the driveway around noon. The house looked the same. The white paint was a little grayer. The grass was a little long. Sloane's car was in the driveway. It was a brand new SUV. I wondered how she afforded the payments. I grabbed my bag and walked to the front door. Before I could knock, the door swung open. It was my father, Martin. "Harper," he said. He was smiling, but it didn't reach his eyes. He looked thinner than the last time I saw him. His shirt was a little loose. He hugged me. His hug felt desperate. "Hi, Dad," I said. "It's good to see you. Come in, come in." He ushered me inside. The house smelled like lemon polish and old dust. I walked into the kitchen. My mother was there, arranging cookies on a plate. She was wearing a nice dress, like she was expecting company. But it was just me. "Harper." She rushed over and kissed my cheek. "You look tired. Are you working too hard?" "I'm fine, Mom. I'm just busy." Sloane was sitting at the kitchen table. She was scrolling on her phone. She didn't look up. "Hi, Sloane," I said. "Hey," she mumbled. She took a bite of a cookie. The table was set, but not for lunch. It was set for a meeting. There were no plates or forks. Instead, there were stacks of paper. Thick, legal-sized documents stapled together. My father pulled out a chair for me. Sit down, sit down. Do you want coffee?" "No, I'm good," I said. I sat down. I looked at the papers. "So, what is all this?" My father sat opposite me. My mother sat next to him. They looked like a united front. Sloane stayed at the end of the table, looking bored. "Well," my father started. He cleared his throat. He put his hands on the table. His hands were shaking slightly. "Like your mother said on the phone, we're looking at the future." "Okay," I said. "Interest rates are variable right now," he said. He was using words I knew he didn't fully understand. "We have an opportunity to refinance the house, to get a better deal. And in the process, we want to add you to the title." "And Sloane?" I asked. "Yes, and Sloane," my mother added quickly. "Both of you. We want the house to be secure. If anything happens to us, we want to know that you girls own this home." It sounded nice. It sounded generous. "So, what do I need to do?" I asked. My father pushed a stack of papers toward me. "We just need your signature here." He pointed to a sticky note with an X on it. "And here." "And here. It makes you a co-borrower. It means you are part owner." I looked at the stack. It was thick. There were probably 50 pages. "I need to read it first," I said. The room went silent. The air felt heavy. "Read it?" my father asked. He laughed, a nervous, high-pitched sound. "Harper, it's just standard bank language. Just legal mumbo-jumbo. We've already looked at it. The notary is coming in an hour. We need to have it signed." "I don't sign things without reading them, Dad," I said calmly. "It's my job. I read contracts all day. I need to know what I am signing." My mother's smile faded. Her face got tight. "Don't you trust us?" she asked. Her voice went high and sharp. "We're your parents, Harper. We are trying to give you a house. A free house. And you are acting like we are trying to trick you." "I didn't say that," I said. "I just said I want to read it." "It will take hours," Sloane groaned from the end of the table. "Just sign it, Harper." "God, why do you always have to be so difficult?" "I'm not being difficult," I said. I kept my voice steady. "I am being responsible. If my name is going on a loan, I need to know the terms. What is the interest rate? What is the term length? What is the monthly payment?" My father looked at my mother. He was sweating. It's a good rate," he stammered. "Very competitive." "Great. Then let me see the numbers," I said. I reached for the papers. I opened the first page. My father's hand shot out. He covered the paper. "Harper, really?" he said. His voice was stern now. "The notary is coming. We don't have time for you to play lawyer. We are doing you a favor. Just sign the damn papers." My heart started to beat faster. This wasn't right. If they were giving me a gift, why were they so angry? Why were they sweating? I stood up. I picked up the stack of papers. "I'm going to take this to a lawyer," I said. "No," my mother shouted. She stood up too. "You can't take those." "Why not?" I asked. "If it's just standard papers, a lawyer will tell me that in 5 minutes. There is a legal aid office in town. I'll go there. I'll be back in an hour." "Harper, sit down," my father yelled. He had never yelled at me like that before. He looked desperate. "You are ruining this. Ruining what? I asked. Ruining your gift? Or something else? I looked at them. Really looked at them. My father was pale. My mother was red-faced. Sloane looked confused now, like she realized this wasn't going according to script. I will be back, I said. I walked out of the kitchen. I expected my father to stop me physically, but he didn't. He just slumped in his chair. I walked out to my car. My hands were shaking as I unlocked the door. I threw the papers on the passenger seat and drove away. I didn't go to a legal aid office. I called a friend of mine from college, Mark. He was a real estate attorney in Chicago. Mark, I need a favor, I said. I'm going to scan some documents and email them to you. Can you look at them right now? It's an emergency. Sure, Harper. Send them over. I drove to a local copy shop. I scanned the documents. I emailed them. Then I sat in my car and waited. It took 20 minutes. My phone rang. Harper. Mark's voice was serious. I'm here. Do not sign these papers, he said. Do not sign them. Why? What is it? They told you this was a refinance? Yes. It is a refinance, Mark said. But it's also a cash-out refinance. A massive one. Harper, there is a second mortgage on this house already. They haven't paid it in months. They are in pre-foreclosure. The world seemed to tilt sideways. What? I whispered. The house is drowning in debt, Mark explained. The equity is almost gone. This new loan, it rolls all that old bad debt into a new loan. And the principal amount is huge. If you sign this, you become liable for the entire debt. You aren't getting a house, Harper. You are inheriting a disaster. How much debt? I asked. Over $100,000, Mark said, plus penalties. If you sign this, it will show up on your credit report. It will ruin your debt-to-income ratio. You could lose your own condo if this goes south. And judging by the payment history here, it will go south. I felt sick. I felt like I was going to throw up. They weren't trying to help me. They weren't trying to secure my future. They were trying to use me. They knew I had good credit. They knew I had a good job. They knew they couldn't get a loan on their own because their credit was destroyed. So they needed a fresh victim. They needed a co-borrower with a clean record. They were going to shackle me to their debt. They were going to make me pay for their mistakes. And they wrapped it up in a bow and called it love. I sat in the parking lot for a long time. I watched the cars go by. I watched people walking into the grocery store, living their normal lives. I felt a coldness spread through my body. The little girl inside me, the one who wanted piano lessons, died in that parking lot. I drove back to the house. When I walked into the kitchen, they were still there. They looked up at me with hopeful, anxious eyes. Well, my mother asked. She tried to smile. Did you look at them? Is everything okay? I threw the papers on the table. They landed with a heavy thud. I know about the second mortgage, I said. My father flinched. I know about the foreclosure warnings, I said. I know you are drowning. My mother put her hand over her mouth. I am not signing, I said. My father put his head in his hands and started to sob. It was a pathetic sound. We didn't know what to do, he cried. We are going to lose the house, Harper. We have nowhere to go. So, you are going to drag me down with you? I asked. You are going to ruin my credit to save yourselves? We would have paid, my mother insisted. We just needed the loan to go through. We would have made the payments. You haven't made a payment in 6 months. I yelled. How are you going to pay a new, bigger loan? They had no answer. Sloane stood up. So you're just going to let them lose the house? She asked me. She looked disgusted. You have money, Harper. You have a good job. You can help them. Why don't you help them, Sloane? I asked her. Why don't you sign the papers? I can't, she snapped. I don't have the credit history. You know that. Exactly, I said. I earned my credit. I earned my life. I am not going to set it on fire for people who have never once put me first. I grabbed my purse. I'm leaving, I said. Harper, please, my mother begged. She grabbed my arm. If you don't sign, we lose everything. You should have thought of that before you lied to me, I said. I pulled my arm away. I walked out. I drove back to Chicago. I didn't turn on the radio. I just drove in the silence, feeling the anger burn in my chest. I thought that was the end of it. I thought they would sell the house, downsize, and deal with the mess they made. But I was wrong. I underestimated them. They didn't give up. They just changed the plan. And that new plan was even crueler. That new plan was what led us to Thanksgiving. I didn't sleep the night I got back to Chicago. I sat on my sofa in the dark, staring at the city lights. I felt like I had just survived a car crash. I was shaking, not from cold, but from adrenaline and shock. My parents had tried to trap me. They had tried to ruin me. For a few days, I waited for the phone to ring. I expected an apology. I expected my mother to call and say, "We were desperate. We're sorry. We love you." I expected my father to call and say, "Let's figure this out together." But the phone didn't ring. The silence was louder than any screaming match. It told me everything I needed to know. They weren't sorry they tried to use me. They were sorry I had caught them. I couldn't just let it go. My brain is wired for logistics, for solving problems. I needed to know the full extent of the damage. I needed to understand exactly what they had done to themselves. I went online. Real estate records are public information if you know where to look. I logged into the county recorder's website. I pulled up the history of the house I grew up in. It was a timeline of destruction. I saw the original mortgage. That was normal. Then I saw a home equity line of credit taken out 7 years ago. The amount was $50,000. I looked at the date. 7 years ago. That was the year Sloane decided she wanted to move to New York City to pursue fashion. She lived there for a year in a studio apartment that cost 3 times what my mortgage cost. My parents had told me she was working as an intern. I realized now that the internship didn't pay. They were paying. They had borrowed against the house to pay for her rent in Manhattan. I kept scrolling. 4 years ago, another loan. A second mortgage. $30,000. That was the year Sloane came back from New York, depressed and needing a fresh start. That was the year she started her organic candle business. The business that folded in 6 months. They funded it. They funded the inventory, the branding, the packaging. All of it on credit. 2 years ago, a notice of default. They had missed payments. That was the year I bought my condo. I remembered my mom crying on the phone, telling me how proud she was, but also how lucky I was. She was jealous. She was jealous of her own daughter because I was solvent and they were drowning. I printed every document. I made a timeline on my kitchen table. It wasn't just bad luck. It wasn't the economy. It was Sloane. Every single major financial hit coincided with one of Sloane's life crises. They had literally eaten the equity of their home to feed her whims. And when the house was empty, when there was nothing left to give, they had turned to me. I felt a wave of nausea. I wasn't just a backup plan. I was the sacrifice. They were willing to burn my financial future to keep Sloane warm. I needed to hear it from him. I needed my father to say it. I called him a week later. It was a Tuesday night. He answered on the 4th ring. "Hello." His voice sounded old, defeated. "I saw the records, Dad," I said. I didn't say hello. I saw the dates. The New York apartment. The candle business. You borrowed against the house for all of it, didn't you? There was a long silence. Then a heavy sigh. "She needed us, Harper," he whispered. "I needed you too," I said. "I needed parents. But I didn't ask you to mortgage your house for me." "You are strong," he said. It was the same excuse they always used. "You can handle things." "Sloane, she's delicate. She can't handle the world like you can." We just wanted to help her get on her feet. "She's 30 years old, Dad. She's not on her feet. She's on your back. And you're drowning." "I know," he cracked. I heard him start to cry again. "I know. We are in so deep. We owe the bank. We owe credit cards. I don't know how to fix it." "You can't fix it by tricking me," I said sternly. "You have to sell the house. It's the only way. Sell it, pay off what you can, and move into an apartment. Stop the bleeding." "We can't sell," he said quickly. "Sloane loves that house. It's her home. She would be devastated." I closed my eyes. Even now, facing foreclosure, facing ruin, his number one priority was Sloane's feelings. "Dad," I said slowly, "the bank doesn't care about Sloane's feelings. They're going to take the house. It's already in pre-foreclosure. You have months, maybe weeks. We'll figure something out," he said. His voice hardened slightly. A wall went up. "We always do." "Don't drag me into it again," I warned. "We won't," he said. We're looking at other options." "What other options?" "Don't worry about it, Harper. You made your position clear. You don't want to help family. We understand." He hung up on me. I stared at the phone. "I don't want to help family." That was the narrative now. I was the villain because I wouldn't let them drown me. I put the documents in a folder. I named the folder Evidence. I had a feeling the story wasn't over. My father's voice, that shift from despair to secrecy, worried me. Other options. There were no other options. Not legal ones, anyway. I went back to work. I tried to focus on my life, but I kept watching from a distance. I checked the online records every week. Nothing changed. The debt was still there. The foreclosure notices were still active. But then the social media posts started, and I realized what the other option was. August turned into September. September turned into October. The leaves in Chicago started to turn gold and brown. The air got crisp. I hadn't spoken to my parents or Sloane since the phone call with my dad. It was the longest we had ever gone without speaking. It hurt in a dull, aching way, but it was also peaceful. No drama, no requests for money, no guilt trips. Then I saw the post on Instagram. I followed Sloane, of course. She posted 10 times a day. Usually, it was pictures of her coffee, her outfits, or inspirational quotes about manifesting abundance. But on October 15th, she posted a picture of herself standing on the front porch of our childhood house. She was holding a set of keys. She was wearing a white dress and a wide-brimmed hat. She looked like a real estate agent's dream. The caption read, "Big things coming. House with garden sparkles, so incredibly blessed to announce that I am officially taking over the family legacy. My parents are the best and are trusting me to carry the torch. Future homeowner energy. Hashtag new chapter. Hashtag home sweet home. Hashtag blessed." I stared at the screen. I zoomed in on the keys. They were the old brass keys to the front door. I was confused. How could Sloane be taking over the house? She had no income. She had no credit. And the house was underwater. It had over $100,000 of secret debt attached to it. Did my parents win the lottery? Did they pay it off? I checked the county records immediately. No. The liens were still there. The pre-foreclosure status was still active. The debt hadn't moved a penny. So what was happening? I scrolled through the comments on Sloane's post. "OMG, congrats, babe. So proud of you. You deserve this." And then a comment from my mother. "Our beautiful girl. The house is in good hands. We are so proud to pass it on to you." I felt a chill run down my spine. They were doing it. They were transferring the house to her. But they weren't refinancing. They couldn't refinance. No bank would give Sloane a loan. This meant they were doing a quitclaim deed. They were simply signing the ownership over to her name. But here's the thing about a quitclaim deed. It transfers the asset, but it doesn't clear the debt. If my parents signed the house to Sloane, she would technically own the house. But the mortgage, the massive unpaid mortgage, would still be owed to the bank. And the bank would still foreclose. My parents were handing Sloane a ticking time bomb. They were letting her play homeowner. They were letting her post on Instagram and brag to her friends. They were letting her believe she had been given a massive gift. But in reality, they were handing her a sinking ship. Why? I thought about it for days. Why would they do that to their golden child? Then it hit me. It was about appearances. They couldn't afford the house anymore. They knew they were going to lose it eventually, but they couldn't bear the shame of admitting they failed. They couldn't bear to tell Sloane, "We are broke and you have to move out." So they created a lie. A beautiful, noble lie. "We are retiring. We're downsizing. We are generous parents giving the house to our daughter." It made them look like heroes. It made Sloane feel special. And when the bank finally came to take the keys in 6 months, they would blame the bank. They would blame the economy. They would say, "Oh, it was a clerical error," or "the system is rigged." They would play the victim. But for now, they got to be the rich, generous parents. And Sloane got to be the successful heiress. It was delusional. It was insane. And it confirmed that I was the enemy. Because I was the only one who knew the math. I was the only one who knew the house wasn't a gift. It was a liability. I debated calling Sloane. I typed out a text message. "Sloane, don't sign anything. The house is in debt." But I deleted it. Would she believe me? No. She would think I was jealous. She would think I was trying to ruin her moment. My parents had probably already poisoned her against me. "Harper is just bitter," they would say. Harper wanted the house for herself. I decided to stay quiet. If Sloane wanted to live in a fantasy, I couldn't stop her. Then the invitation came. It was a physical card, mailed to my condo. My mother's handwriting was on the envelope. Thanksgiving dinner. The Cole family home. 2 p.m. Inside, there was a handwritten note. Harper, we know things were tense in July. We want to put it behind us. Please come for Thanksgiving. It's going to be a special celebration. We are making the official announcement about the house. We want the whole family together. Please don't punish us by staying away. We love you. Mom and Dad. I held the card. It smelled like my mother's perfume. A special celebration. They were going to announce the lie to the entire extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins. Everyone would be there to cheer for Sloane and her new house. And if I wasn't there, I would look like the bitter, estranged sister. If I was there, I would have to sit and watch them lie. I would have to watch them celebrate a fraud. But then I thought about something else. I thought about Logan West, Sloane's fiancé. Sloane had gotten engaged in August. I saw that on Instagram too. A big diamond ring. Logan was a nice guy. He came from a family with money. He was practical. He was smart. If Sloane owned the house, Logan would assume it was an asset. He would assume they were starting their marriage with a paid-off home. He would plan his financial future based on that lie. My parents weren't just tricking Sloane. They were tricking Logan. They were dragging an innocent man into their financial sinkhole. That was the breaking point for me. I wasn't going to let them ruin someone else. I walked to my desk. I picked up the folder marked evidence. It had the mortgage statements, the foreclosure warnings, the tax liens. I put the invitation in my bag. Okay, I said to the empty room. I'll come. I wasn't going there to eat turkey. I wasn't going there to make peace. I was going there to tell the truth. I packed my bag. I put on my best dress, a sharp, dark blue dress that made me feel like armor. I checked the folder one last time to make sure I had everything. I drove home on Thanksgiving morning. The roads were empty. The sky was gray. As I turned onto my parents' street, I saw the cars lining the curb. My aunt's minivan, my uncle's truck, Logan's BMW. The house looked welcoming. Smoke was coming from the chimney. A wreath was on the door. I parked my car. I took a deep breath. I knew that once I walked through that door, nothing would ever be the same. I knew I was about to blow up my family, but they had lit the fuse. I was just there to watch it explode. I grabbed the folder. I walked up the steps. I didn't knock. I just opened the door and walked into the warmth. The moment I stepped inside, the heat of the house hit me. It was stuffy. It smelled like roasting turkey, sage stuffing, and expensive perfume. The hallway was crowded with coats and boots. I could hear the roar of voices from the living room. Laughter. Clinking glasses. The sound of a football game on the TV. It sounded like a happy family. It sounded like everything I had ever wanted but never quite had. I hung my coat on a hook near the door. I kept my purse on my shoulder. The folder, the evidence, was tucked safely inside it. I could feel the weight of it against my hip. My mother came out of the kitchen. She was wearing an apron over a silk blouse. Her face was flushed from the oven heat, or maybe from the wine. She saw me and stopped. For a second, her smile faltered. I saw a flash of fear in her eyes. She looked at my purse, then back at my face. "Harper," she exclaimed, recovering quickly. She opened her arms. "You made it." I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if you were coming. She hugged me. It was a stiff hug. I didn't hug back very hard. "I said I would," I replied. "Well, come in," she said, ushering me toward the living room. "Everyone is here. Sloane is so excited." We walked into the living room. It was packed. My Aunt Linda was on the sofa with a glass of white wine. My Uncle Bob was yelling at the TV. My cousins were huddled in the corner. And there, in the center of the room, was Sloane. She looked radiant. She was wearing a cream-colored dress that looked very expensive. Her hair was perfect. Her engagement ring sparkled under the lights. Logan was standing next to her, his hand on her lower back. He looked happy, relaxed. He looked like a man who thought he had it all figured out.
Sloane saw me.
Her smile tightened, just a fraction.
"Harper," she said.
She didn't move to hug me. She just raised her glass slightly. "Glad you could make it."
"Wouldn't miss it," I said.
The conversation in the room dipped. My relatives looked at me. They knew. I could tell they knew something. My mother had probably told them a version of the story, that I was jealous, that I was distant, that I was the difficult one. "Hi, Harper," Aunt Linda said, her voice a little too loud. How is Chicago? It's good, Aunt Linda. Busy. Still working that logistics job? She asked.
Yes.
Still paying the bills, I said. Aunt Linda laughed nervously. I looked around the room. There was one person who didn't look at me with pity or suspicion. My grandmother, Rosemary. She was sitting in her armchair by the window. She was 80 years old, sharp as a tack, and notoriously grumpy. She didn't suffer fools. She was watching the room with narrowed eyes. When she saw me, she gave a tiny nod. It wasn't a smile. It was an acknowledgement. She knew something was wrong with this picture. She had always seen through my parents' nonsense. I walked over to her. Hi, Grandma, I said. You look tired, she said bluntly. She looked at my purse. You brought work? Something like that, I said. Good, she grunted. This room is full of hot air. Could use some reality. She knew. Dinner was announced. We all shuffled into the dining room. The table was beautifully set. The good china. The crystal glasses. I looked for my place card. Usually I sat next to my dad, but my card wasn't there. I scanned the table. Sloane and Logan were at the head of the table, next to my parents. The aunts and uncles were in the middle. My card was at the very end, the kids section. I was seated next to my 14-year-old cousin, Timmy, who was playing a game on his phone. It was a small slight, a petty insult. It was their way of saying, you are not important here. You are on the outside. I sat down. I put my purse on the floor between my feet. I didn't complain. I unfolded my napkin and placed it on my lap. My father stood up to carve the turkey. He looked nervous. His hands were shaking again. He kept glancing at me, then looking away quickly. He was sweating. Everyone, he said, clearing his throat. Before we eat, we have so much to be thankful for this year. Here, here. Uncle Bob shouted. We have our health, my father continued. We have our family. And we have some very exciting news to share. He looked at Sloane. Sloane beamed. She stood up. My stomach tightened. Here it comes. Sloane tapped her glass. Ting, ting, ting. Thank you, Daddy, she said. She looked around the table, making eye contact with everyone except me. As you all know, this house means everything to us. It's where we grew up. It's the heart of our family. She squeezed Logan's hand. Logan smiled up at her lovingly. Logan and I are starting our life together, she said. And Mom and Dad, being the most generous, amazing parents in the world, have decided to give us a head start. The room went silent. Everyone leaned in. Mom and Dad are signing the house to me, she announced. Her voice was triumphant. They are retiring and moving to a condo in Florida. And this house, this beautiful house, will be ours. Harper gets nothing. She added that last part with a little laugh, as if it was a joke. But it wasn't a joke. Her eyes flicked to me. It was a victory lap. To Sloane and Logan, my mother shouted, raising her glass. To the homeowners, Aunt Linda cheered. The room erupted. People clapped. Uncle Bob whistled. Logan looked proud. He kissed Sloane's cheek. Wow, Logan said. Patricia, Martin, thank you. It's incredible. We will take such good care of it. A paid-off house. It's a dream come true. A paid-off house. He said it. He believed it. My parents smiled and nodded. They didn't correct him. They let him believe the lie. They let him believe he was marrying into wealth, into security. I watched them. I watched my father wipe sweat from his forehead. I watched my mother drink a large gulp of wine. They were frauds. They were con artists. And they were my family. I felt a cold calm wash over me. The anger was gone. Now there was just clarity. I reached down. I unzipped my purse. I pulled out the folder. I didn't stand up. I didn't shout. I just set my fork down on my plate with a deliberate clack. I looked at my father. He felt my gaze. He looked up. His face went white. He saw the folder. He knew exactly what it was. I smiled. Dad, I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the cheering like a knife. The room quieted down. People looked at me. They looked confused. Why wasn't I clapping? Why wasn't I happy? Dad, I said again. Should I tell them, or will you? The silence that followed was absolute. You could hear the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. My mother stopped mid-sip. Sloane's smile froze on her face. Logan looked between me and my father. His brow furrowed. Tell us what, Harper? Sloane snapped. That you're jealous? We already know. No, I said calmly. I'm not jealous, Sloane. I'm worried. I opened the folder. I took out the first document. It was the mortgage statement from last month. It had a big red stamp on it. Past due. I slid it across the table. It stopped right in front of Logan. What is this? Logan asked. He looked at the paper. Harper, stop it, my mother shrieked. She stood up, knocking her chair over. Don't you dare. This is a family celebration. It is, I agreed. And families should be honest with each other. Logan picked up the paper. He read it. His eyes widened. This is a mortgage statement, he said slowly. It says $4,200 past due. The room gasped. That must be a mistake, Sloane said quickly. She tried to grab the paper from Logan. Harper forged it. She's crazy. I didn't forge anything, I said. And there's more. I slid the next paper across the table. This is the notice of default, I said. Dated 3 weeks ago. The bank has started pre-foreclosure proceedings. I slid the third paper. And this, I said, pointing to the numbers, is the total payoff amount for the 2 liens on the house, the first mortgage and the home equity line of credit. Logan looked at the numbers. He looked pale. $112,000, he read out loud. Aunt Linda dropped her fork. Uncle Bob's mouth hung open. But Logan looked at my parents. You said the house was paid off. You said you owned it free and clear. My father couldn't speak. He was staring at the tablecloth. He looked like he wanted to disappear. My mother was shaking. It's just a temporary cash flow issue, she cried. We were handling it. We just needed to transfer the deed to Sloane so we could fix it. Transferring the deed doesn't fix the debt, Mom, I said. It just gives the debt to Sloane. And to Logan. I looked at Logan. If you marry her, I said to him, and you put your name on this house, this debt becomes your problem. The bank will come for you. They will garnish your wages. They will ruin your credit. Logan looked at Sloane. He looked horrified. Did you know? He asked her. His voice was quiet, but dangerous. Sloane looked terrified.
No, I didn't.
I thought it was a gift. She turned to our parents. Mom? Dad, she begged. Tell him it's not true. Tell him Harper is lying. My father finally looked up. There were tears in his eyes. We were going to pay it, he whispered. Eventually. Logan stood up. He threw his napkin on the table. You told me this house was an asset. You told me we could use it to secure a business loan for my startup. You lied to me. We didn't lie, my mother insisted. We just omitted some details. You omitted $100,000? Logan shouted. You omitted a foreclosure? We did it for Sloane, my mother yelled back.
She pointed at me.
We did it because we love her. Unlike Harper. Harper just wants to ruin everything. Look at her. She's happy about this. All eyes turned to me. Was I happy?
No.
I wasn't happy. I felt sad. I felt incredibly, deeply sad that my parents were so broken that they had to live in a fantasy world. I'm not happy, Mom, I said. I'm just tired. I'm tired of the lies. And I wasn't going to let you drag Logan down with you. You already tried to do it to me in July. Remember? I looked at the relatives. They tried to get me to co-sign a refinance in July. I told the room. They tried to trick me into taking on this debt. When I said no, they moved on to Sloane. The relatives were whispering now. The illusion was shattered. The perfect family with the perfect house was gone. All that was left was debt and deception. Grandma Rosemary cleared her throat. It was a dry, raspy sound. Martin, she said to my father. My father flinched. Yes, Mama? You are a fool, she said. It was simple. It was brutal. You have always spoiled that girl. She pointed a shaking finger at Sloane. And you have always ignored that one, she pointed at me. And now you have lost them both. Sloane was crying now. Mascara ran down her cheeks. Logan, please, she sobbed. She reached for his hand. We can fix this. We can figure it out. Logan pulled his hand away. He looked at her like she was a stranger. There is no we, he said. He took the engagement ring off Sloane's finger? No, he didn't do that. That's in movies. In real life, it's Messier. He just backed away. I need to think, he said. I can't be here. Logan, Sloane screamed. He walked out of the dining room. We heard the front door open and close. We heard his car start. Sloane collapsed into her chair, sobbing uncontrollably. My mother rushed to her. It's okay, baby, it's okay. He'll come back. Then my mother turned to me. Her eyes were full of hate. Get out, she hissed. Get out of my house. You have ruined this family. I stood up. I picked up my folder. I didn't ruin this family, Mom, I said. I just turned on the lights. I walked out of the dining room. I didn't look back. I walked to the front door, grabbed my coat, and stepped out into the cold November air. My hands were shaking, but my head was clear. I had done the hardest thing I had ever done. I thought it was over. I thought the explosion was finished. But I was wrong. The fallout was just beginning. And there was one more knock at the door coming that nobody expected. I stood by my car in the driveway. The cold air bit at my cheeks, but I didn't feel it. My heart was pounding a slow, heavy rhythm against my ribs. I had dropped the bomb. I had walked away, but I couldn't leave.
Not yet.
My car was blocked in. Uncle Bob's truck was parked directly behind me. I was trapped in the driveway of the house I had just destroyed. Inside, I could hear screaming. It wasn't the happy cheering from 10 minutes ago. It was the ugly, raw sound of a family falling apart. I heard Sloane wailing. I heard my mother shouting my name, cursing me. Then, the front door flew open. Logan came stumbling out. He looked shell-shocked. He didn't even put his coat on. He was clutching his car keys in one hand. Logan! Sloane ran out after him. She wasn't wearing shoes. She ran onto the freezing concrete in her stocking feet. Logan, wait. Don't go. She grabbed his arm. He spun around. Get off me, he said. His voice was shaking. Please, Sloane sobbed. We can explain. It's just money, Logan. We love each other. It's not just money, Sloane, Logan said. He looked at her with a mixture of pity and disgust. It's the lie. You stood there and let everyone toast your success. You let me believe I was safe. You let me believe your parents were helping us. I didn't know, she cried. You knew enough to take the credit, he shouted. You knew enough to post the pictures.
You are just like them.
You want the lifestyle, but you don't want to do the work.
He pulled his arm free.
He got into his BMW. He reversed aggressively, swerving around the other cars, and sped down the street. He didn't look back. Sloane stood in the driveway, shivering and sobbing. My mother and father came out onto the porch. My mother ran to Sloane and wrapped her arms around her. He's a coward, my mother yelled, looking at the retreating car. If he can't handle a little trouble, he doesn't deserve you. Then she saw me standing by my car. Her face twisted into a mask of pure rage. She marched down the steps, leaving Sloane with my father. You, she hissed, pointing a finger in my face. Are you happy now? You chased him away. You ruined your sister's life because you are a jealous, bitter, lonely little girl. I didn't chase him away, Mom, I said quietly. The truth chased him away. The truth, she spat. Who cares about the truth? We are family. You are supposed to protect us. You are supposed to help us. Help you? I asked. Like you wanted me to help you in July? By taking on your debt. We gave you life, she screamed. We gave you everything. You gave me nothing.
I yelled back.
It was the first time I raised my voice. You gave me a roof, sure, but you gave Sloane your soul. You gave her every penny, every ounce of love, every bit of support. And when you ran out of money, you tried to sell me to the bank to keep her comfortable. My mother raised her hand to slap me. Patricia. The voice cracked like a whip. We both froze. We looked up at the porch. Grandma Rosemary was standing there. She was leaning heavily on her cane, but she looked taller than I had ever seen her. She had come out into the cold without her coat. Her white hair was blowing in the wind. Don't you dare touch her, Grandma said. My mother lowered her hand. She looked like a scolded child. Mom, you don't understand. Harper, I understand perfectly, Grandma interrupted. She walked slowly down the steps. The family, aunts, uncles, cousins, had crowded into the doorway to watch. Grandma stopped in front of my father. Martin was holding a sobbing Sloane. Martin, Grandma said, I am ashamed of you. My father looked down. Mama, please. You have failed these girls, she said. She pointed at Sloane. You crippled that one. You never let her fail. You never let her work. You taught her that the world owes her a living. And now look at her, 30 years old, and she can't stand on her own 2 feet. Sloane cried harder. Then Grandma pointed at me. And this one, she said. You punished her for being strong. You used her. You treated her like an appliance, something to be used when you need it and ignored when you don't. She looked at my mother and father with eyes like steel. Your daughters are not lifeboats for you to climb into, she said. They are people. And you have drowned them both to save your own pride. The driveway was silent. The wind whistled through the bare trees. My mother looked defeated. My father looked broken. We just wanted to keep the house, my father whispered. The house is brick and wood, Martin, Grandma snapped. You sacrificed your family for a pile of bricks. I felt a lump in my throat. For 30 years, I had waited for someone to say it. I had waited for someone to see me. Grandma looked at me. Her expression softened. Go home, Harper, she said gently. You don't belong here. I can't, I said, gesturing to Uncle Bob's truck. I'm blocked in. Uncle Bob scrambled down the steps. I'll move it. I'm moving it right now. He looked terrified of Grandma. He ran to his truck. I thought it was over. I reached for my car door handle. But then, a black sedan pulled up to the curb. It wasn't a family car. It looked official. A woman stepped out. She was wearing a dark gray suit. She carried a briefcase. She looked at the house numbers, then at the group of us standing in the driveway. My father went pale. He knew. The woman walked up the driveway. Her heels clicked on the pavement. She had a badge on a lanyard around her neck, but I couldn't read it from where I stood. She stopped 10 feet away from us. She looked at the scene. The crying sister, the angry mother, the fleeing uncle. She didn't look surprised. She looked like she had seen everything before. I am looking for Martin and Patricia Cole, she said. Her voice was professional, flat, and terrifying.
My father stepped
forward. He was trembling. I'm Martin. I'm Dana Whitaker, the woman said. I'm an investigator with the mortgage fraud unit of the state bank. My mother gasped. She grabbed my father's arm. Fraud, she squeaked. We haven't done anything wrong. Dana Whitaker didn't smile. She opened her briefcase and pulled out a file. Mr. and Mrs. Cole, we have flagged several irregularities in your recent loan applications, she said. Specifically, an application for a hardship deferment where income was underreported, and a separate application for a line of credit where assets were overinflated. She looked up. We also have reason to believe you have been renting out a portion of the property while claiming it as a sole primary residence to avoid insurance premiums. And she paused, looking at a document. There is the matter of the forged signature on the forbearance agreement from last year. The silence in the driveway was heavy, heavier than the Thanksgiving silence. This wasn't family drama anymore. This was the law. Forged, my father whispered. It appears someone signed a co-signer's name without their presence, Dana said. I looked at my father.
He looked at me.
I realized then what other options he had been talking about in July. He hadn't just tried to get me to sign. He had considered signing for me. Maybe he had tried. Maybe that's what the investigator found, a botched attempt to use my identity. I can explain. My father stammered. You can explain it at the hearing, Dana said. She handed him a thick envelope. You are being served. The bank is moving for immediate foreclosure. You have 30 days to vacate the premises. And we are opening a formal investigation into the submitted documents. She looked at Sloane, who was still crying. I suggest you don't sign anything these two give you, Dana said to her. Unless you want to be an accessory. Sloane stepped back from her parents. She looked at them with horror. For the first time, she wasn't looking at them as her saviors. She was looking at them as a liability. Dana Whitaker turned to leave. She looked at me. Are you Harper Cole? She asked. Yes, I said. We saw your name on a rejected application, she said. We might need to call you as a witness to confirm you didn't authorize any use of your credit. I didn't, I said clearly. And I will tell you whatever you need to know. My mother let out a sob of betrayal. Harper, you would testify against us. I will tell the truth, I said. That's all I've ever done. Dana nodded. She got back in her car and drove away. The illusion was completely gone now. There was no retirement in Florida. There was no inheritance. There was just 30 days to pack before the sheriff came to lock the doors. The relatives started to leave. Uncle Bob had already moved his truck. Aunt Linda mumbled a goodbye and hurried her kids into their van. Nobody wanted to be near the blast radius. I opened my car door. Harper, my father said. His voice was a ghost. Where are we going to go? He sounded like a child. He was asking me to fix it. He was asking the invisible daughter to save him one last time. I looked at him. I felt a twinge of pity, but I stomped it out. I remembered the papers in July. I remembered the lie at the dinner table. "I don't know, Dad," I said. "But you're adults. You'll figure it out." I got into my car. I started the engine. I backed out of the driveway. I saw them standing there, my mother, my father, and Sloane, standing in the wreckage of their own making. Grandma Rosemary was walking back inside, shaking her head. I put the car in drive and headed toward the highway. I didn't cry. I turned on the radio. A Christmas song was playing. I sang along. That was 2 years ago. The house was sold at auction. It didn't fetch a high price because of the condition of the roof and the market. The bank took everything. My parents walked away with nothing but their clothes and some furniture. They didn't go to jail. The bank decided it wasn't worth the legal fees to prosecute for the fraud since there was no money to recover. They just took the house and blacklisted my parents from ever getting a loan again. My parents moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in a noisy complex near the highway. It's small. It smells like other people's cooking. My father had to come out of retirement and take a job as a greeter at a hardware store. My mother works part-time at a bakery. They hate it. They complain constantly, but they're surviving. Sloane didn't marry Logan. That ended in the driveway. Logan moved to California a month later. I heard he got married last spring to a pediatrician. Sloane had the hardest time. The reality check nearly broke her. For the first 6 months, she slept on my parents' couch in the apartment. She was depressed. She was angry. She blamed everyone, the bank, Logan, me. But then, something happened. My parents couldn't afford to feed her anymore. They couldn't afford her phone bill. For the first time in her life, the safety net was gone. Sloane had to get a job. She started working as a receptionist at a dental office. It wasn't glamorous. She had to wake up early. She had to deal with rude patients. She had to budget her paycheck. I didn't speak to her for a year. I kept my distance. I focused on my career. I got promoted to director of logistics. I traveled. I dated a nice architect named David who has his own life and pays his own bills. One evening, my phone rang. It was Sloane. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hello."
"Hi, Harper," she said.
Her voice sounded different, less breathy,
Deeper.
tired, but real. "Hi, Sloane. I wanted to call," she said. She paused. "I'm moving out of Mom and Dad's. I got a studio apartment. It's tiny. It's basically a closet, but I'm paying for it." "That's good, Sloane," I said. "I'm glad." "It's hard," she admitted. "Rent is expensive." "Yes, it is. I see a therapist now," she said. "She says I have a lot of learned helplessness to unlearn." "That sounds about right," I said. There was a long silence. "I was angry at you for a long time," Sloane said. "But Grandma was right. They were drowning me. If you hadn't done what you did, if I had signed those papers with Logan, I would be bankrupt right now. I would be in debt forever." "Yes, you would be," I said. "So, thanks," she said. It was choked out, like the word was stuck in her throat. "Thank you for stopping it." "You're welcome. We aren't best friends. We probably never will be, but we talk once a month. She complains about her boss, and I listen. She asks for advice on tax forms, and I give it. I still visit my parents on holidays. I go to their small apartment. We eat turkey on a folding table. The dynamic has changed. They don't treat me like the invisible daughter anymore. They treat me with a strange mix of fear and respect. They know I have the power. They know I can walk away at any second. They never ask me for money. I made that clear. I will buy dinner. I will bring gifts. But I will not be your bank. Last Thanksgiving, I sat at the small table. Sloane was there, wearing a simple sweater she bought herself. My dad looked tired, but he was laughing at a joke David made. My mom was fussing over the gravy. I looked around. It wasn't the big, white house with the pillars. It wasn't the perfect family image. It was messy. It was cramped. It was flawed. But for the first time, it was real. There were no secrets. There were no hidden debts. There were no lies hanging over our heads. I took a sip of my wine. I looked at my reflection in the glass. I wasn't the victim anymore. I wasn't the girl who practiced piano on a silent keyboard. I was Harper Cole. I had told the truth, and the truth had burned everything down so we could build something real from the ashes. It was a quiet power. It felt like peace. Pass the potatoes, I said. And for the first time in my life, they passed them to me first.